talk about picnic food because it's Memorial Day weekend, the lead into summer, but I also wanted to acknowledge that Memorial Day is a day where it's not as much about festivities as it is about being grateful. There are families who sacrificed by losing members to war. And so we acknowledge that on Memorial Day, which is why it's called that. Veterans Day is for veterans, and I think there's one called Service Day, which is for active participants in the military. But Memorial Day is for people who lost their life in the performance of their duties in their military service. So instead of just making food randomly, I chose 3 different wars to acknowledge. So the first one we're going to talk about is, and we're not going to talk about it in depth, but I chose to do a Hawaiian dish to acknowledge Pearl Harbor. So that was in December of 41, and some of you may have been small children then. I was not around yet. My mother was, but I was not. So what we're going to do, I have my trusty sheet pan, and I did a few things ahead of time, as I typically do. And the idea behind this recipe, you can do it as an hors d'oeuvre, you can do it as a meal, you could do it as you know, a lunch or a dinner or picnic. So I have regular size waffles that I'm just toasting, and I cooked little chicken nuggets. But the key to this recipe, and I'm going to have to put gloves on because it's sticky, is the sauce. So I made a sauce, and I used crushed pineapple. I used a half of a jar of apricot jam, and, pardon me? If I'm going too fast, let me know. And then I used a half a jar of sweet orange marmalade. I got this at Lidl, and I have to tell you, most of the time orange marmalade is really puckery. This is not. It's nice, and it's like fresh oranges almost. I really like it. So I melted the jams into the crushed pineapple, and you have, you know, it's kind of saucy. But if you stick your cooked chicken nuggets into this to coat them, and then kind of grab it with some of the chunks, and then you're going to sit that on your waffle. I think I can fit 2. Now, to serve this as an hors d'oeuvre, you could use mini waffles, but you can also use Ritz crackers, and we actually did that for a function here, and it was very nice. So it's not really, in this size, maybe not picnic food, but in the small, it's a 1 pop in your mouth. So, and it smells so good. So I'm going to do a couple of these.
Excuse me, Cindy?
Yes?
Did you drain the crushed pineapple?
I did not. This pineapple, I actually get this at Aldi. It is almost like pulverized crushed. So there's not a whole lot of liquid. When I opened the jar, I did kind of do that, and like maybe a teaspoon came out, but that was it.
Can is it?
What size can? 20 ounce. Now, the nice thing about this, because it's canned stuff and not fresh pineapple or whatever, you can keep this sauce. You could actually freeze it if you wanted to, but what I did at home was I made some shrimp and rice and put this sauce over the top. I ate some on top of fish. It would be good on a piece of broiled or baked chicken breast. So there are, you know, different things that you can do with it. I'm grabbing another waffle. I have girls in the front office who want a snack, so But anyway, I thought that it would make more sense for us to talk about different types of, I hate to use the word war, but different occasions where people, perform their military service and the United States service lost members in battle. So this is our ode to Hawaii. So I wish you could smell this. I mean, seriously, just the pineapple and the orange together. And they're very nice. And if you wanted to, you could stick a little, the little parasol, that you have in a cocktail once in a while. You could put that in on top of this. And like I said, it's not just for a picnic. You can eat it for your lunch, make it into an hors d'oeuvre size. So that is our recipe with our Hawaiian flavors. So we had orange marmalade, apricot jam, and crushed pineapple. I just want you to see. And it really is nice over fish and shrimp, because I had some left over the last time I made it, and that's what I used it for. Let me just wash my hands. So does anybody have picnic plans for the weekend?
Yes.
Yes? Someone said yes. Oop, somebody said, it's Barbara. Barbara said yes. So are there any grandchildren involved this weekend for anybody?
Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Barbara, yeah.
Well, I want to show you something, and this doesn't have to be for grandchildren, but I used to have a cooking studio, and this was we called it the tweener class, and it was the kids that were from like 11 to 15, and it's I don't know if you can see it. It's actually kind of like a charcuterie tray. It has cheeses and crackers. There's Genoa salami and pepperoni and ham. We didn't get to the bottom to cover that with cheese, but see how it looks like the flag? And then this up here, we used a star cutter for bread, and then we did a cream cheese spread and put a cherry tomato and a piece of basil on it. Can everybody see that? It's blowing from the vent. But that's a neat thing to do. I mean, you could do it for grown-ups too, but if you have kids and you want to get them to participate in the kitchen, grandchildren at this point in our lives, it's a neat thing. Another thing, which is kind of fun, and this you could make into an adult beverage if you chose, just get plain lemonade, and you're going to pour it in a glass. And if you wanted to, put a little spirit in there, you could. But this is the fun part. And for those of you who know me well, you know that cotton candy is one of my favorite things on the face of the earth. They used to have an air freshener probably 6 years ago. Glade made it, and it was called something sweet or whatever, and they had cotton candy. I love that, and they don't make it anymore. Anyway, the best part of cotton candy was when you would be on the boardwalk down at the Jersey Shore, and the way that the wind would come in off the ocean, and it would make the cotton candy get all sticky. It would make it evaporate. But I love that. So anyway, to do this fun thing with grandkids, you take your cotton candy and you put it in, and it changes the color of your lemonade. So, see how it's blue? So that's fun for kids, but it's also fun for grown-ups. That's my favorite. So that's my 2 little tips for the day. Cotton candy lemonade and the American flag deli tray, for lack of a better word. So, I think what I'm I'm going to do is I'm going to do the next oven dish so that I can turn that off then. So for this one, we're going to talk about the Revolutionary War. 1775 to 1783. None of us were here for that one, but we always say, since we became a nation, that we are as American as baseball, hot dogs, and apple pie. So today I'm going to do a twist on a traditional hot dog recipe. So, and this I just found out myself yesterday or the day before. Does anybody know what a Texas Tommy is? No? Well, I grew up with my mom making them for us, and it's a hot dog that you put cheese, you slit the hot dog and you put a slice of cheese in there. My mom would put relish, wrap it in bacon, and then you cook it. You either bake it, you can fry it in a deep fry or whatever. So it turns out that they were invented, Texas Tommies, in Pottstown, Pennsylvania in the 1950s. And I thought that that was really interesting, because why did whoever create that dish call it a Texas Tommy when they made it in, you know, Pennsylvania, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania? So what I'm going to do, now my mom would serve them to us, and I know you're in there somewhere, Mom. I can't see you, but I know you're listening. We would have them for dinner just in a hot dog roll. This I'm going to do because it's picnic food. For me, the idea behind picnic food is it should be things that can go out in small amounts so that it's not sitting outside. My biggest peeve are flies. And when there's a fly in the room, even here in this kitchen, I offer money to people to please kill it. If you can kill it, I'll give you $5. Nobody ever catches them though. So anyway, I'm going to use Poppin' Fresh rolls for this twist on our Texas Tommy. So I'm just going to put these on the baking sheet, and I already cut up some hot dogs. And you want to leave room anytime you're baking anything, especially if it's protein. If you have chicken breasts or pieces of fish and you put them on a pan, please leave enough space around them that the heat can circulate, or else you have uneven cooking. You could end up with a raw spot on your chicken or your fish, and you definitely don't want that. So, yeah, I'll tell you a funny story about these Poppin' Fresh rolls too. I had a can in my refrigerator that was like super old. So one day I decided, and this was during colder weather, I decided I was going to throw it out. So my house has those old-fashioned radiators, and I have a trash can in my kitchen that looks like the old-fashioned trash cans outside, the metal kind with the big lid, except they're bright yellow. I had gotten them years ago at IKEA. So anyway, I threw this thing, you know, it was still all together, threw it in the trash can. An hour or two later, I'm sitting in the living room, and I thought the kitchen blew up. I heard this big boom, and I thought, what was that? Walking around looking, here, this thing from being in the next to the heat where the trash can was, it exploded. And the ends blew out so hard that they hit the metal trash can, and the lid was on the trash can, so it just made this like voluminous sound of kaboom. So don't ever do that. Open them up before you throw them out, or it'll scare the living daylights out of you. So anyway, I have my biscuits lined up, and I don't know if you can see that. Again, it's the big white thing. And I'm going to put, I think, 2 and push them down, because you kind of want the biscuit to bake up around them. And hot dogs, I mean, you want it to be kind of golden, you know, bronze looking when it gets out of the oven, but you can eat them cold because it's, you know, the meat that it is. It's just like ham. You don't really have to cook ham because it's already cooked, smoked, salted, whatever. But I wouldn't recommend eating cold hot dogs, but you can. So anyway, I'm sticking these in, and then, because we're doing it this way and not in a roll, I am going to put shredded cheese on. And I don't know if it was Barbara today, but someone told me how much they enjoyed the taco salad the other day for lunch, last week I think it was. This is, you'll recognize this shredded cheddar from that. So I'm going to put a little bit of that on. And the thing is too, depending on your oven and your oven temperature, sometimes you might have to start, we'll see how this goes, but you might have to start by baking your biscuit a little bit and then pulling your pan out and adding other parts, other of the ingredients. I'm going to put this in like this and let it bake for a few, and then I'm going to pull it out and I'm going to add the relish and the bacon. So while this is in the oven, excuse me, I want to talk about bacon. Does anybody still cook real bacon at home?
Yes.
Yes. I know a lot of people use turkey bacon, but that's just not the same thing for me. Anyway, when you cook bacon, a lot of people have the habit of pulling it out and putting it on paper towels on a plate. That doesn't make your bacon crispy because it's laying in its own grease. So I learned this from Jacques Pepin. What you can do is, you know your cookie cooling racks that are like the grids? Put the bacon on that, and that way the air gets to both sides once it's out of, I cook this in the oven. You can do it at home I cook it in the frying pan, but here because I was doing other things, I put it on a sheet pan in the oven. What I do, because I don't always want to have to wash that grid, is I took a bunch of wooden spoons and I lay them across my plate and I lay the bacon across them. And that way the bacon's up off the surface, it's not sitting in its own grease, and it stays crispy. So that's your little bacon tip for the day. And I did cut this up, and I didn't dice it too small because, I don't know if you can see that, because once it goes on top of those biscuits, it's going to be in under the heat, and if it were real little, it would cook it to the point that it would be overcooked and it would feel like BBs in your mouth. I mean those little pellets from the pellet gun, like you don't want it that hard. So this is cut a little larger so that once it's in there and it's baking, that it won't get overdone. So that's that for that. Let me make sure I can open this. Anybody have any questions or conversation?
I
Okay.
missed in the beginning. Was that little chunks of hot dog, or were they mini hot dogs?
No, I used regular hot dogs that I cut. So yes, they were little chunks. You could use the little Vienna sausage hot dogs if you wanted, and I think both of them would work. Say that again.
Were the chunks about an inch long?
They are about an inch.
Okay.
Yeah, about an inch. And the reason I made them that big, you could make them littler, but the biscuits, the only biscuits that I could put my hands on were the grand size. So because they're going to be bigger, I thought I would use a bigger cut of the hot dog. So that's that. I'm just trying to move my junk out of the way. Anybody feel like a blue lagoon? I think we should. Yeah, it smells good to me. I'll have to wait. Let me check the biscuits. Well, they smell good. I think what I'm going to do, if nobody minds, I'm going to get a glove ready, because this is a little greasy. Let me pull that out. Back and forth again today. One of these days we'll have a Zoom where I don't have to walk away. All right, now the key to this is to be fast, because you don't want it to like really kill the baking process. So I'm going to use my hands because that just works best for me. And I'm just putting a sprinkle. And this is a sweet pickle relish. And you wouldn't have to do it this way. I just thought the Texas Tommy was kind of interesting since it originated in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And you could do hot dogs with sauerkraut in a biscuit like this for your picnic, because hot dogs are the ultimate picnic food, I think, right? I mean, people like hamburgers too, but I'm more of a hot dog fan myself. What's that?
I agree with you.
Oh, do you? And what's your favorite side dish, Kathy? For That's not a side dish. That's a garnish. I like potato salad. I like a good macaroni salad. And when I say good, I mean the kind that has shrimp and hard-boiled eggs and all that stuff in it. Excuse me, I'm going to use my clean fingers. I'm going to put a little bit more cheese on the top. So now I've added bacon, cheese, and relish. And can you see this? Yes? Yes? I'm going back to the oven. So, and I keep the oven usually at 350. The only thing is, because the biscuits will tell you, I think on the package, it's a little higher than that, then you should adjust for that. But once you start adding cheese and that biscuit has already started to rise, you probably can turn it down a little, but then you have to ignore the time that it tells you on the biscuit package, because you'll have to add a few minutes. Just like when you're cooking rice, if you have rice in a pot with water, with the lid on, because that's the way you're supposed to, every time you lift that lid, you have to add 3 minutes to your cooking time, because it releases that steam, and that's how rice cooks. It cooks by the steam. So keep that in mind when you're cooking things. Every time you open the oven door, you decrease the temperature. Every time you lift the lid off a pot, you decrease the temperature. So they're going to be done in just a minute. I was going to say, we used to, thinking about the hot dogs as being all American, they actually originated in Germany with the Frankfurter, but the Texas Tommy, since it was a Pennsylvania dish, I thought, okay, we can use that for that one. But my dad used to always say, my brother was born in Florida, and when our family lived there, and the rest of us were born in Pennsylvania. So my father used to say that we had a civil war every night at the dinner table because we were from different places. So that was that. Oh, let me get Connie excuse me. Yes, I'm leaving treats over on the side for the camera woman. So, now, let me check this. Yeah, they need a minute or two longer. I think most of the time those biscuits say like 12 to 14 or 14 to 16 minutes or whatever, so we're going to leave that in there for a minute. Somebody remind me. And then the third thing that I wanted to make today for you, and these ideas for today's thing are more about thinking outside the box again. We have so many ways that we can prepare and present food, but we all, myself included, get stuck into the same routine, or we have favorites, and so we always defer to that. A friend of mine, and if they ever see this, I'll say it wasn't this person that I was speaking about. He makes, for a fella, he makes a really, really good pasta salad. But anytime you go to an event, you know that he's going to bring that pasta salad. One time, I'd like to see him bring, wild weenies or something. Something different. So that's why I like to try to present things to you that are a little bit different, a little bit outside the box. I'll tell you what a wild weenie is, since someone asked about cocktail franks. I take puff pastry and I take a regular size hot dog. Most people, when they have the little hors d'oeuvres with the pastry around the hot dog, they're the mini ones. Well, I use a full-size hot dog, and if you open up a box of puff pastry by Pepperidge Farm, they're folded. It's a long strip, but it's folded into thirds. If you open that up and cut it down the crease, you can put a hot dog on that one strip and roll it till you can seal it. And then what I do is I crush saltines and I add Cajun spices to that, and then I roll that hot dog in that, and then cut them into coins, which are, this size, and lay them on their side and bake them. And the pastry puffs up, away from the hot dog. The hot dog kind of puffs up this way and gets that nice goldenness to it. And they're so good, and it's different because you have that little crunch from that breading, so to speak, on the outside of the puff pastry. And it's not your typical little, the size of your thumb, hors d'oeuvre hot dog. Well, I'll tell you what, they look wonderful. I'm going to give them 2 minutes, maybe a minute and a half. So for our third recipe today, I decided after the last class, I felt like I was making everybody dizzy running around. So I thought I would do 3 things today. So we did our pineapple chicken on top of a waffle, which you could substitute mini waffles or Ritz crackers and make it a one-bite deal. We have our little Texas Tommy twist. And now we're going to do for the Mexican-American War, which, does anybody know what that was? I know Dave will know. Not that you were there, Dave. But the Mexican-American War was 1846 to 1848. It's when Texas decided to annex itself into the United States of America, and Mexico did not recognize the fact that they were going to do that, and they disputed it, and it caused the Mexican-American War. So I'm doing a Tex-Mex type of a thing. If you're wondering what this little thing is, it's either the thing that the British use for their toast, or it's a letter holder. But they also make, for tacos, a little tray, but I don't know where mine is. So I'm going to use this just to show you. You can place your taco shell in there so that you could make a few at a time. Or anything that you have that has those little things where you feel that you could support that. So we'll see how much of a mess I make with this. I'm going to get the ice cream. Okay.
We should work that in, shouldn't we?
What are we working in? Hey, she's right around the corner. Go ahead. Just tell us for sure if you really mean, ooh, well that didn't work. Anyway, this is the kind of thing that if you set it up, you could put them on your, you know, whatever rack or dispenser you're using, and you could put it in the freezer to hold it, or hand out taco shells to all the people who are at your picnic and set up all the toppings and let them do it themselves. And then that way it's less work for the hostess or host. So I have some caramel syrup, some sundae syrup, some whipped cream. Does anybody remember when we talked about the sugared pecans from the first class? Was it the first? Yeah, when we did the cheese in the oven with the thyme and the sugared pecans. So we're going to put these sugared pecans on our thingy. Hold on one second. Turn off the oven. And here are our beautiful, see it? Oh, and they smell heavenly. All right. So whoever gets here first, Kathy or Shirley down the street. Oh, let me get a plate. I'm going to put that there. Okay. So we're going to put our nuts. The other thing is when you're doing some kind of a buffet setup, whether it's for an ice cream bar or a hot dog bar, you want to make sure that you have enough different utensils, because you do not want someone taking a spoon from the nut bowl and putting it into a different bowl where someone with an allergy might be affected. So always make sure that you let your guests know or your family know what's in each bowl. Cute little cards. You could get those little American flags that they sell at like the dollar store that are paper and they're attached to toothpicks, and most of the time people use them in the top of a cupcake or something. Put on what the item is and say sugared nuts, and then stick that in that bowl so that people are aware of what the food is that's there, because you don't want people, you know, that's the quickest way to ruin a party is somebody leaving in an ambulance. So then we're going to do, back in the day, working in restaurants, this is how we opened it. Because it pops the lid off. And then we're going to do our whipped cream. And a cherry on top. Now, oh, right off the side. And then, look how nice that is. Cute? Questions, anybody? What's that?
Cindie, I would have never thought to put ice cream in a taco shell.
One of my favorite junk foods is called Choco Taco, and they actually coat the shell with chocolate syrup, and it hardens. So when you're eating it, it's almost like toffee, because the taco shell's like chewy. Oh, it's heavenly. If you wanted to do that with like an ice cream cone or even the outside of your taco shell, use tempered chocolate. So you're either going to want to use those candy melts that you can buy at the craft stores, or I don't know where they sell them. Some of the grocery stores actually have them in like the baking aisle. Or you can use regular Hershey's chips, and then they say to add a little bit of Crisco to it, because that helps to temper it. But in all honesty, I've never had a problem with chips. I've dipped dried fruit slices in it, and it worked fine. So, you know, if you're doing 100 of them, don't take the chance. But if you're only doing 1 or 2, I say go for it and forget about tempering. I'm going to grab this because I told Connie I would do a waffle sundae instead of a taco shell. So she's combining her waffles from Hawaii with her Mexican-American taco sundae. And that's the thing too, if you're thinking of having company or you're thinking of doing a picnic for this weekend or for the July 4th weekend, try to think about using food that you know that you're going to utilize in another format. The price of food right now, certain items has skyrocketed, specifically meats. So if you're getting bacon to do this thing or hot dogs, get either the size package where you're only going to use half of it for this event and you're going to have half of it later, so you can use your hot dogs for, you know, I have a good recipe, it's called stoop, and it's got beans and hot dogs, and we can do that when the weather gets cool. The bacon, the same thing. I mean, you can use bacon as an enhancement to salads. You can, of course, you know, breakfast, add it to your eggs. You can add it to certain soups. But make sure that when you buy, even the waffles, if you buy waffles, you can, I mean, they're not just for breakfast. You can make dessert with them. You can make sandwiches on them. There's so many opportunities for different types of dishes using the same food items. So keep that in mind when you're shopping so that you're not, I mean, I know someone who's in the food industry and they throw so much food away because you know, not planning well. So think about it. When you're doing things like this or you're going to somebody's house, if they say to you, hey, can you bring such and such? Think about it. Is it something that's convenient for you to bring? I could say pasta salad, but that's pretty simple for most people. Keep in mind what vegetables you need to make that with, what kind of dressing, does it take something special? Do not buy a spice thing that's going to cost you $6 or $8 and you're never going to use it again. Really think through the process when you're purchasing food, whether it's for a picnic or whether it's just for your regular daily meals, because you don't want to waste. You want to make sure that you get your nutritious value or nutritional value, that your meals are nutritious, and you know, with the fact that we have so many children in this country who are below the poverty line and don't have enough food, I really hate to waste food. And that's why for me, even doing these Zoom classes, I try to utilize things that we either have here from lunches that we've done, or things that I know, like if I went out and bought certain things for today, I know that I can take them home and I can either have it for dinner or I can use it for my lunch tomorrow. But I certainly, what's that?
Like the ice cream.
Oh yeah. And always buy vanilla because it has many more uses. You can use it for a root beer float. You can use it for an ice cream sundae. One of the best things that I like to do with vanilla ice cream is I put it in a glass jar with orange juice and actually shake it like a milkshake. I don't use a blender, and it tastes like an orange creamsicle. And I figure it's healthy because it's orange juice, so I'm getting that vitamin C, and it's yummy. So anyway, that's our 3 recipes. We have our Hawaiian chicken on waffles. We have our taco sundae, which I had to put over there because it was dripping on me. And we have our, and I can't wait till the camera goes off because I'm going to eat one of these. Eat one of these right when we say adieu. Our biscuit Texas Tommy. So yeah, it really smells good. So anyway, if anybody is close by, we have quite a few of these. So come on over. And look at that. Looks good. Yeah, it's really good.
Can't reach it.
Very good. So everybody have a safe weekend. Have a good weekend. Have fun. But also remember to be grateful for the sacrifice of the people in our service. See ya.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.